Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be here, spilling my guts to complete strangers on the internet, but here we are. My name's Mark, and I used to have what most people would call the perfect life. You might even know me or have seen me around online. My wife, Olivia, and I run a lifestyle vlog that took off like crazy. We got millions of followers, a ton of sponsorship deals, and we've been doing it for years now. The whole world thought we were living the dream, and honestly, so did I. We built something together that most couples only dream of. We'd travel to amazing places, eat at fancy restaurants, and review products that everyone wishes they had. We shared our life with the world, and for a long time, it felt like the universe was on our side. Every time we posted a video, the comments would blow up with people telling us how lucky we were to have each other, how perfect our marriage looked. It was all pretty damn convincing. But it's funny how easy it is to fake things for the camera, isn't it? I'm not gonna lie. Olivia is stunning. That was part of the reason our channel blew up so fast. People loved her. She's got that kind of presence that makes people feel like they know her, like they're her best friend. She was my partner in everything, and for a while I thought we were on the same wavelength. We had our ups and downs, but who doesn't, right? Life behind the lens isn't always what it seems, but it worked for us, or so I thought. We did everything together. Vlogging was our life, and we were good at it. It's crazy to think about now, but I was convinced we had it all. We'd film these morning routines or day-in-the-life videos where everything was perfect, smiling over coffee, working out together, planning trips. People ate that shit up, but somewhere along the way, things started to change. It started small. Olivia began working late more often. At first, it made sense. We'd hired a new producer, Alex, to help with the channel since the workload had exploded. The guy knew his stuff, I'll give him that. He was smart, ambitious, and creative, a perfect fit for what we were doing. Olivia and Alex clicked immediately, but I didn't think much of it. She and I were always pretty tight, and we trusted each other completely. Why wouldn't I trust her? We were building an empire together. But over the last few months, I started noticing little things. Olivia wasn't herself. She'd come home late after meetings with Alex, saying they were just discussing strategy or shooting extra footage. At first, I brushed it off as her being dedicated to the vlog, which was normal. We'd both put in insane hours to keep it running. But soon, she started pulling away. I'd try to kiss her when she got home, and she'd turn her cheek, saying she was too tired. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd give me one-word answers, barely looking up from her phone. And don't even get me started on the sex. Or rather, the lack of it. We used to have a great sex life, spontaneous, fun, the kind you'd show off in those relationship goals videos. But then it became this rare, awkward thing, like she was doing me a favor every time we did it. I knew something was off. I wasn't stupid. One night, she came home late again, smelling like someone else's cologne. I didn't say anything right away because I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I didn't want to believe what was right in front of me. But that night, as I lay next to her in bed, I felt it, that gut-wrenching feeling that something had shifted between us, and I wasn't sure we could ever come back from it. It didn't help that she was spending more time with Alex than with me. He'd text her constantly, even late at night. She'd giggle at her phone, quickly turning it away when I asked what was so funny. I asked her about it once, tried to play it cool, but she brushed it off like I was being paranoid. "Relax, Mark," she said, rolling her eyes. "We're just working on some ideas for the next shoot. You're overthinking it." Overthinking it? Maybe. But my gut was screaming at me that something was seriously wrong. You don't just go from being all over each other to being complete strangers for no reason, right? And then there was that one dinner. We were out at this fancy restaurant with Alex and some of the crew. Olivia sat next to him, of course, and they were laughing like they were the only two people at the table. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't help feeling like a third wheel at my own goddamn dinner. She barely even glanced my way the whole night. When we got home, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I asked her straight up, "Is there something going on between you and Alex?" She laughed. She fucking laughed. "You're being ridiculous, Mark." "Alex? Seriously?" But I didn't believe her. Not for a second. The way she said it, with that tone of superiority, like I was too stupid to figure out what was happening right under my nose. It made me feel small and pissed off. I let it go that night, but the doubt was already eating away at me. I started watching her more closely, trying to catch the little things. Her phone was glued to her hand, always on silent now. She'd get these late-night texts and smile at them before locking her phone. She started disappearing for hours at a time, saying she was out shooting, but coming back with no footage to show for it. So yeah, things were definitely not as picture-perfect as we made it seem online. You know, there's this moment when you just feel it, like, deep down, you know something's broken and it's not going to fix itself. That's where I was with Olivia. I can't even pinpoint when it started. It was like one day we were fine, and then the next everything fell off. She became distant, avoiding real conversations with me, always hiding behind the excuse of work. We used to talk about everything, plans for the future, where we'd travel next, what we'd do when we finally hit that 1,000,000 subscriber mark. But lately, those talks had turned into shallow exchanges about deadlines and sponsors, like we were business partners instead of a married couple. She was there physically, but mentally, checked out. She wouldn't even look me in the eyes anymore. I tried reconnecting with her. Believe me, I did. I'd suggest dinner dates or a weekend getaway. Just the two of us, away from the cameras, away from work. But she always had an excuse. "Oh, I've got to meet Alex to go over the next shoot." Or, "Sorry, I'm just slammed with editing this week." Every time it was work, work, work. And that damn Alex was always involved. At first, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I didn't want to be that guy. Jealous, paranoid, accusing her of things without proof. But the longer it went on, the more I felt like I wasn't even part of her life anymore. It's hard to explain, but it was like I was invisible, just someone she happened to live with. And the worst part? I couldn't talk to her about it. Every time I tried, she'd shut me down. I'd ask, "Olivia, is everything okay? You've been different lately." And she'd hit me with the same bullshit response every time. "You're imagining things, Mark. Stop overreacting. You're just stressed from work." Maybe she was right. Maybe I was imagining things. But it didn't feel like stress. It felt like my wife was slipping away from me, and I had no idea how to stop it. That's when I started looking for answers. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? If she wasn't going to talk to me, I had to figure it out on my own. So I did what any guy in my position would do. I started digging. I'm not proud of it, but I went through her phone. She always kept it close, but one night she left it on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I waited until I heard the water running before I grabbed it. My heart was pounding like crazy, but I told myself I was just being paranoid. I just needed to know. I scrolled through her texts with Alex, expecting to find something that would confirm my worst fears. But you know what I found? Nothing. No flirty messages, no late-night sexting, nothing that screamed, "I'm cheating on you." It was all business. Talk about upcoming shoots, ideas for content, timelines for projects. It was almost too clean. If she was hiding something, she was doing a damn good job. And that only made me more anxious. The lack of evidence felt worse than finding something. It made me feel like I was losing my mind. Was I really just overreacting? Was I creating problems where there weren't any? I couldn't keep doing this alone, so I turned to my closest friend, Tom. He'd known me and Olivia for years, even before the vlog blew up, so I figured if anyone would understand, it'd be him. "Man, I don't know what to do." I told him one night over drinks. "Something's not right, but I've got nothing to go on. It's all in my head, or at least that's what she keeps telling me." Tom looked at me with that knowing expression, the kind you get when you see something from the outside that's obvious, but the person living it just can't see it. "Mark," he said, "you need to stop focusing on her phone. If she's doing something, she's not going to leave a trail that obvious. But you know who will slip up? Alex. Alex. Of course. It made sense. If something was going on, the dude wouldn't be as careful as Olivia. Maybe he'd slip up, say, or do something out in the open. So I started keeping an eye on him. It wasn't like I followed him around or anything, but I made a mental note of whenever he and Olivia had meetings or work trips. I started watching her body language around him, the way she laughed at his stupid jokes, the way she leaned in just a little too close when they talked. It was all these tiny things that, on their own, wouldn't seem like much. But together, they painted a picture I couldn't ignore. Then one day, it all came crashing down. Olivia told me she had a business meeting downtown. Some brand wanted to discuss a potential sponsorship. I didn't think much of it at the time, but something just didn't sit right with me. So, I decided to follow her. Yeah, I know it sounds desperate, but I needed to know the truth one way or the other. I trailed her car to this fancy hotel in the city. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just a meeting like she said. But when I saw Alex pull up and join her, my stomach dropped. I watched from across the street as they walked into the hotel together, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. No business attire, no briefcases. Just two people who clearly weren't there for a business meeting. It was like time stopped. I stood there frozen as the realization hit me like a freight train. All those suspicions, all those nights I spent doubting myself, thinking I was losing my mind, it was all real. She was cheating on me with Alex, the guy I trusted to help grow our business, the guy I thought was my friend. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I felt my world collapse inside me, and I didn't know what to do. So, I just stood there, staring at the entrance to that hotel, trying to keep it together while everything I knew was falling apart. I went home that night, trying to act normal, but everything had changed. I had proof now, undeniable proof, and it was only a matter of time before I had to confront her. But not yet. Not until I had a plan. The days after I saw Olivia and Alex walk into that hotel together were some of the darkest of my life. I mean, how do you even begin to process something like that? It's like you're drowning, but everyone around you is walking on dry land, oblivious to the fact that you're sinking. I spent hours just sitting in our house, staring at nothing, replaying every moment, every conversation, over and over in my head. I wanted to confront her right away, scream at her, demand answers. But something stopped me. I didn't know if it was shock or fear, but I felt paralyzed. I didn't know what to do. For weeks, I was stuck in this loop of anger, sadness, and confusion. I'd look at her across the dinner table, wondering how she could act so normal. She'd smile, talk about work or some new content idea, all while I knew exactly what she'd been doing behind my back. I barely said a word. I couldn't. Every time I opened my mouth, all I wanted to do was throw it in her face, to let her know I wasn't as clueless as she thought. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. And when I did manage to get a few hours of rest, my dreams were filled with her and Alex, laughing at me, like it was all some big joke. My mind kept going back to that image of them together, walking into that hotel completely carefree. It tore me apart. I didn't know if I should give her another chance, or just burn it all down. Part of me wanted to believe there was some explanation, some twisted logic that would make it all make sense, but deep down, I knew the truth. One night, while she was asleep next to me, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with rage. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine while she was betraying me behind closed doors. And that's when it hit me. She had spent years building our lives in the spotlight, sharing every detail of our perfect marriage with the world. So, why not expose the truth in the same way? The idea started small at first, just a whisper in the back of my mind. But the more I thought about it, the more it grew, until it was all I could focus on. If she wanted to live her life in the public eye, I'd give her the spotlight she craved. Except this time, it wouldn't be for some travel vlog or product review. No, this time, it would be for her betrayal. And everyone would see it. Everyone would know exactly who she was. So, I started planning. I wasn't going to rush into it. I wanted to be sure that when I dropped the bomb, there was no way she could deny it. No way she could spin it to make herself look like the victim. I needed hard evidence, and I needed to be smart about how I delivered it. The first step was gathering proof. I already had that mental image of her and Alex entering the hotel, but that wasn't enough. I needed more. So, I became her shadow. I started checking her phone more often, carefully, so she wouldn't notice. I went through her emails, her social media messages, anything that could give me a smoking gun. And finally, I hit the jackpot. There were texts between her and Alex, some flirty, some outright sexual, that made me want to throw up. She wasn't even hiding it anymore, at least not from him. There were also photos. Nothing too explicit, but enough to show their business meetings weren't exactly professional. She'd taken selfies in hotel rooms, lounges, places I knew she'd been with Alex. And then there were the videos, short clips they'd sent each other, flirting, teasing a little too cozy for people who were supposed to be working together. I saved everything. I wasn't sure exactly how I'd use it yet, but I knew I would. I wanted to destroy her, but I wanted to do it right. Next, I reached out to a lawyer. I wasn't going to stick around once this was over, and I wanted to make sure the divorce papers were ready to go the moment I pulled the trigger. The lawyer told me it was a good idea to gather as much evidence as possible, and I knew I had enough to blow her whole world apart. With the evidence secured and the legal side in place, I began setting the trap. I knew Olivia wouldn't suspect anything. She was so caught up in her own little world with Alex that she wasn't paying attention to me anymore. We were about to launch a new project, a live stream where we'd announce some big collaboration with a major brand. It was supposed to be this huge deal, something we'd been teasing to our audience for weeks. I figured it was the perfect opportunity. We scheduled the live stream for a Friday night, knowing that's when we'd get the most engagement from our viewers. Olivia, as usual, was fully focused on making it perfect, completely unaware of what was coming. I played along, keeping up the appearance of a happy husband, eager to share our latest venture with the world. In the days leading up to the stream, I was calm, eerily calm. Actually, it was like once I'd made the decision, all the anger and despair just settled into this cold determination. I had a mission now, and nothing was going to stop me. The night of the stream arrived, and I made sure everything was set. The cameras were rolling, the lights were perfect, and the audience was waiting. Olivia looked stunning, of course. She always knew how to turn on the charm when the cameras were on. I could see the excitement in her eyes, the thrill of being in the spotlight, completely oblivious to the fact that her perfect little world was about to come crashing down. As we went live, I smiled at the camera, played my role. We started the stream, talking about the new project, bantering back and forth like the perfect couple we pretended to be. But underneath it all, I was watching her, waiting for the right moment. I knew exactly when I was going to drop the bomb, and when I did, there would be no going back. Olivia had no idea that this would be the night everything would change forever, and neither did our millions of followers. The day of the live stream felt like any other, at least on the surface. Olivia was buzzing around the house, excited about the big announcement we were about to make. She was in full vlogger mode, planning every detail down to the lighting and angles, making sure we were ready to impress our millions of viewers. She had no idea what was really coming, no clue that I was about to rip her world apart in front of everyone. I stood there, watching her, feeling this strange mix of disgust and satisfaction. It was like I could see through her now, every fake smile, every enthusiastic word about our amazing partnership. She was so good at pretending, so good at playing the perfect wife. And in just a few hours, all of that was going to crumble. We went live at 8 p.m. sharp, right on schedule. The chat immediately lit up with people excited to see us, commenting on how great we looked, how they couldn't wait to hear the big news. I smiled at the camera like I always did, playing my part. We started with the usual banter about our day, some behind-the-scenes stories about the upcoming project, all the stuff our fans ate up. Olivia was in her element, laughing, flashing that million-dollar smile, completely unaware that this would be the last time she'd ever do this with me. I'll admit, I was nervous. I wasn't sure how the audience would react, or if Olivia would figure out what I was doing before I pulled the trigger. But the more I talked, the more confident I became. I could feel the moment building, like I was on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump, and all I had to do was take the plunge. We hit about the 20-minute mark when I knew it was time. My heart was racing, but I kept my voice steady. I leaned forward slightly, looking straight into the camera. "So, guys," I said, "we've got something special for you tonight. Something that's a little more personal than usual." Olivia turned to me, her eyebrows raised in curiosity. She clearly wasn't expecting this, but she didn't say anything. She trusted me to lead the way. Poor thing. I reached for my laptop, where I'd preloaded everything I needed. We've been getting a lot of requests to share more about our personal lives, about what really goes on behind the scenes. I glanced at Olivia, watching the smile fade slightly from her face. "And tonight I think it's time to do just that." Olivia shifted uncomfortably. "Mark, what are you?" But I didn't let her finish. I clicked a button, and the screen switched to a series of images. Photos of her and Alex together, walking into hotels, having dinner in places she never told me about. The live chat froze for a second, like the audience was processing what they were seeing. Then the comments started flooding in. "What the hell is this? Wait, is that Alex? WTF? Olivia, what's going on?" Olivia's face turned pale, her hands flying to her mouth in shock. "Mark, what the fuck is this?" she shouted, her voice shaking. I ignored her and kept my focus on the camera, speaking directly to our audience. "I'm sure you guys are just as surprised as I was. See, Olivia here has been having a little fun on the side with our producer, Alex, for months, all while we were filming and pretending to be the perfect couple." The chat exploded, a flood of disbelief and anger. People were spamming the chat faster than I could read. Some were in complete shock. Others immediately turned against her. "Oh, Olivia, no. I knew something was off with her. What a bitch. Mark, I'm so sorry." Olivia tried to speak again, but I cut her off, my voice cold and calm. "Olivia, you don't get to explain yourself. Not anymore. I've seen everything, and so has everyone watching right now. You didn't just cheat on me. You cheated on our fans, on the people who supported us for years. And I'm not going to pretend anymore." Her eyes were wide, tears starting to pool. "This is insane, Mark. You're blowing everything out of proportion. Alex and I." "Save it," I snapped, turning to face her for the first time during the stream. "You lied to me, Olivia. You lied to everyone. And now, everyone knows the truth." The chat was going crazy, some people calling her names, others begging her to explain. A few diehard fans even tried defending her, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. "And since we're being honest tonight," I said, taking a deep breath, "I think now's the perfect time to let you all know that this will be our last live stream together." I turned back to the camera, locking eyes with the lens. "I'm divorcing you, Olivia. Live. Right here, right now." Her gasp was audible, like I'd punched the air out of her. The chat blew up again. People couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Some were cheering me on, others were in shock, but no one could deny the raw, real spectacle of it all. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I continued, my voice steady, "and the papers are ready. You can keep lying to yourself, but you won't be lying to me anymore. This is over." Olivia was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. But I didn't feel bad for her. Not after everything she'd put me through. I looked down at the chat, reading out a few of the comments. "Mark, you deserve better." "Yeah, I think I do." I smirked, then read another. "Olivia, how could you?" "Yeah, good question." She tried one last time to salvage it, her voice breaking. "Mark, we could talk about this, please. Don't do this here. We need to handle this privately." I shook my head, my tone final. "Privately? After all the shit you've done in the spotlight? No, Olivia. We're done." With that, I ended the stream. The last thing our audience saw was Olivia, sitting there in shock, tears falling, her world crashing down around her. I sat back, letting out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. The silence in the room was deafening. It was over, and it was only just beginning. When I ended that stream, it felt like the weight of the world had finally lifted off my shoulders. The room was silent except for Olivia's quiet sobbing, but I didn't care. I didn't feel anything for her anymore. I'd done what I needed to do. I exposed her for who she really was, and now the whole world knew it. That night, I slept like a baby for the first time in months. When I woke up the next morning, everything had changed. The news of the stream had spread like wildfire. It was all over social media. Our fans were going nuts, tagging us, sharing clips, commenting on what had gone down. The hashtags were trending. Hashtag Mark deserves better. Hashtag Olivia exposed. Every platform was buzzing with the drama, and there was no escaping it. By the afternoon, the real fallout had started. Sponsors were dropping us left and right. Brands that had been throwing money at us for years suddenly wanted nothing to do with us. Or rather, with her. Every deal we had in the works was canceled. PR teams were scrambling to distance themselves from the scandal. It was chaos. Olivia's perfect image? Gone. The adoring fans? Turned against her. She tried to put out some damage control, a statement about how things were more complicated than they seemed, but no one was buying it. Every time she posted, the comments would flood in, tearing her apart. It was brutal, but honestly, I didn't feel bad for her. She'd built her brand on lies, and now it was all crumbling. Meanwhile, I was getting messages from people who supported me, telling me I'd done the right thing. A lot of them shared their own stories of betrayal, saying how they wished they'd had the guts to do what I did. It was strange. On the one hand, I felt vindicated, like I'd finally taken control of my life. But on the other hand, it felt empty. The life we'd built was gone, and I wasn't sure what came next. Then there was Alex. His name was dragged through the mud, too. He lost clients, deals, everything. No one wanted to work with him anymore. He tried reaching out to me, first with these pathetic text messages, saying it wasn't what it looked like, that I'd blown it out of proportion. I didn't respond. What was there to say? He was just as guilty as she was, if not worse. Eventually, Alex sent a legal threat. His lawyer contacted mine, claiming I defamed him by showing those photos and videos on the stream. He said it damaged his reputation, that he was considering suing me for loss of income or some bullshit like that. But here's the thing. I'd already prepared for this. My lawyer had warned me about the possibility, so we made sure everything I shared was backed up by solid proof. The texts, the emails, the hotel footage, it was all real, and Alex had no case. After that, I didn't hear from him again. Let him stew in the mess he'd made. As for Olivia, she tried to pick up the pieces, but there wasn't much left to pick up. A few days after the stream, she came to me, begging for a chance to explain. She looked like hell. Her hair a mess, her eyes swollen from crying. It was a far cry from the picture-perfect woman she pretended to be online. "Mark," she started, her voice barely a whisper. "I messed up. I know that. But we can fix this. Please just give me a chance to explain." I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel any anger. I just felt numb. "Explain what, Olivia?" I asked. "That you've been fucking our producer for months? That you lied to me over and over? What is there to explain?" She broke down, tears streaming down her face. "It wasn't like that. It wasn't serious. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened." I couldn't help but laugh at that. "It just happened? You walked into hotels with him. You sent him videos. You made a choice, Olivia. Over and over again. You made the choice to betray me. And now you want me to just... what? Forget it." She shook her head, reaching out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "But we built so much together. We can't throw it all away." I stared at her for a long time. Maybe she really believed that. Maybe she thought we could salvage something from the wreckage. But I was done. I've been done for a long time. "We didn't build anything, Olivia," I said coldly. "You built a lie, and I just didn't see it. But now I do. And I'm not going back." She tried a few more times after that, showing up at the house, sending long, apologetic texts, trying to make me believe that she was sorry. But I wasn't buying it. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. The divorce papers were filed, and the process was quick. There wasn't much to fight over. The vlog, the sponsorships, everything we created together, it was gone. She didn't have a leg to stand on, and I didn't care enough to drag it out. I just wanted to be free of her. In the end, Olivia lost everything. The brand, the money, the followers, everything she thought defined her was ripped away. She tried to rebuild, to launch a solo channel, but it never took off. People didn't forget, and they didn't forgive. Not after what I'd exposed. As for me, I'm still picking up the pieces. It hasn't been easy, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my life again. I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, it won't be built on lies. The truth has a funny way of setting you free, even if it destroys everything along the way. Sitting here now, looking back on everything, it's hard to believe how far I've come. It wasn't that long ago when my entire world was falling apart. But now things are different. I've had a lot of time to reflect on the choices I made. And while I don't regret what I did, I can admit it was a hell of a risky move. Publicly exposing Olivia like that, there were a million ways it could have gone wrong. But in the end, it gave me something I desperately needed: closure. I used to wonder if maybe I should have handled things differently, maybe kept the affair private, confronted her quietly, saved us both from the spectacle. But no. After all the lies, after how she dragged me through the mud, the only way I was going to move on was by showing the world who she really was. And honestly, I'm at peace with it. The fallout was brutal, sure. I lost a lot, and so did she. But for the first time in a long time, I feel free. And I needed that more than anything. After the dust settled, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let the past define me. The vlog we built together? It's still going strong, but now it's mine. Solo. I didn't think I want to keep doing it at first. I associated it too much with her, with the life we shared. But after some time, I realized it wasn't the vlog's fault. It was still something I loved doing, something I was damn good at. And you know what? People stuck around. The fans who supported me through all the chaos, they kept watching, and we've even picked up new subscribers since the whole mess blew up. But the difference now is that I'm doing it on my terms. I'm not chasing fame or trying to create this perfect image of myself anymore. That part of my life is over. Now I'm just doing what I love because it's what I love, not because I need validation from strangers on the internet. That shift in mindset led me to something new, something I never thought I'd be interested in: business. I decided to open my own company, something completely separate from the world of vlogging. It started small, just a few ideas I'd been toying with for a while, but it quickly turned into something real. It feels good, building something with my own hands, something that has nothing to do with the life I used to share with Olivia. I'm not chasing numbers or sponsorships anymore. I'm chasing growth, personal growth. I've been dedicating more time to myself, working out, eating better, even getting into meditation, if you can believe that. It sounds cliche, but I've learned a lot about who I am in the process. I've spent so much of my life trying to be what other people expected me to be, but now, for the first time, I'm just being me, and it's enough. I've also started reconnecting with people from before all of this. Friends I hadn't seen in years. Family I distanced myself from because I was too wrapped up in the perfect life Olivia and I were building. Turns out, they were there for me all along. It's funny how clear things become once you strip away all the bullshit. Do I miss the fame? Not really. I mean, sure, there's something intoxicating about having millions of people hanging on your every word, but I don't need that anymore. I'm not living for likes and comments now. I'm living for me, and it feels damn good. As for Olivia, I haven't seen her in a long time. Last I heard, she's still trying to scrape together a new career, but it's tough when your reputation's been torn to shreds. Part of me wonders if she'll ever really learn from what she did, or if she'll just keep blaming everyone else for her downfall. But that's not my problem anymore. She's part of my past now, a chapter that's been closed for good. So, here I am, starting fresh. A new chapter, a new life. No more lies, No more pretending to be something I'm not. It's scary, sure, but it's also exciting. I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for, and that's something no one can take away from me. If there's one thing I've taken from all this, it's that the truth, no matter how ugly, is always better than living a lie. And that's the path I'm on now, living in truth, building something real, and letting the rest fall away. Here's to whatever comes next.